video is intended to describe a lightblade talisman named Abundance, which would be the 51st rendition since beginning of 2025. And to join me in this endeavor will be my whimsical stick figure chakra map, to which I will reference quite a bit for various chakra crystalline stimulation points through this little vast apparatus. And without further ado, I'll be discussing the primary blade band scaffolding seen much like so, to be essentially the figure 8-ish resembling containment field recirculation of this entire little wearable talisman apparatus of abundance. Starting off with the lateral band seen right here of the transmutation ratio, seen going laterally like so, up the sides to this lateral band, as well as this band right here connecting the point to make essentially a transmutation quadrant of the primary blade band scaffolding as part of the dominant recirculation of the excess energy for perpetual regeneration, or recirculation I should say, for the concept of the figure 8, of course, is an infinite recirculation loop. And so the aspect of the transmutation ratio is a combination of both hematite and smoky quartz offset like so, an ignition sequence for this entire quadrant. Hematite is a very fantastic iron-based mineral that grounds all excessive stray radio energy firmly through chakra into the earth stars, into the earth for reprocessing. In tandem with smoky quartz providing the same energetic stimuli, grounds excessive energy very effectively through the root chakra into the earth stars, into the earth for reprocessing. Hence, the two together have been deemed the transmutation ratio to, just like implied, transmute negativity into positivity by high yield etheric dialysis into the earth at a consistent ratio, which also plays a critical role. Before I move on too, with that configuration, it's very discouraging for stagnant energies to maintain the field with that much reprocessing. Hence, it's kind of like a layer of etheric Teflon as well for that constant regrounding, which is also quite contingent, quite simply, to make the magic real for this very dynamic vibratory output wearable device. So it makes for a perfect foundational scaffolding to discuss first things first before I move on to the other blade band sequences. And moving on to this section right here, where of course this is the apex band developed for actually suspending the necklace through, that would be that of the coherence ratio. Starting off with clear quartz seen right here, which works as a neutral accelerant of other energies in sequence, as well as of course natural amplification of the intentions of the wielder, which makes for a neutral acceleration of vibrational inputs and outputs. Going into purple fluorite seen right here. Fluorite is a very fantastic wind elemental, 6 chakra, third eye stimulant that works very effectively to mitigate cross interference of chaotic vibrations that be impeding whole brain thinking of the right and left hemispheres. Hence, whole brain thinking, of course, is the territory of a coherent, awakened third eye, higher capacity with less cross interference, which is, of course, indicative of the human condition. Then going into clear quartz to neutrally amplify into lapis lazuli. Lapis lazuli is a lovely blue-ray crystal of antiquity. It's quite favorited by millions for thousands of years. And the aspect of lapis makes for a very powerful wind elemental 5th and 6th chakra stimulation of one's highest sovereign truth, hence also, of course, the prolific magical utilization from times of antiquity, which I will omit to keep on track for cataloging purposes, has quite the powerful resonance of higher mysticism, which is very applicable for this comprehensive talisman. So the two together, quite simply, make a very fantastic coherence ratio, just like implied with the archetypal designation of the crystalline ignition order, to provide a very clear, higher truth guidance configuration of that be implied with being in a coherent state. Now, this next section of the blade banding would be that of the abundance ratio. Like I've mentioned, there are 50 predecessors to the 51 seen right here of exactly this ignition sequence in global distribution. Starting off with rutilated quartz to work as a massive accelerant of other frequencies in the sequence, just like clear quartz, it works as a neutral amplification of other frequencies, yet the aspect of having rutile of a titanium oxide derivative also makes to tremendously supercharge the quartz node point to really intensify the green ray abundance heart spectrum activation. Going into the famous classic emerald, a true precious stone of antiquity of 8.5 out of 10 the hardness scale, which is the indisputable perfected green ray heart chakra activation frequency, hence is a true precious stone of abundance, and is quite famous for many, many reasons, and most mortals have heard it for a good reason, because it's quite the legendary green ray crystal of intensive heart chakra activation. Then going into golden healer quartz, which is a very powerful high heart gold white light source attunement frequency, which works like a celestial stimulant of source attunement, which is very advantageous, obviously. But the big aspect, too, with the heavy green ray designation, also makes for a very powerful terrestrial segue to transfer the source energy into the physical matter. So it's, I guess you could say, a bit of a holy grail concept homage of this design. Then from the golden healer quartz of high heart source activation goes into peridot. Peridot is a fantastic third and fourth chakra stimulant of great notoriety and is an earth frequency of positivity and growth and expansion, and I consider it the equivalency of chlorophyll caught in crystalline format, which is very expansive for the activated abundance spectrum. Then going into root-related quartz to intensify, almost paradoxically, into moss green agate. Moss green agate is the absolute most stable green ray heart chakra water elemental stimulant chakra activator in the mineral kingdom, which plays quite the integral role to, of course, have the massive expansion of heart chakra activation, then to have the stabilization of that wavelength is quite integral for consistent results, as far as I'm concerned, with this great abundance crusade. So the aspect of having the most stable heart chakra stimulant, of course, makes a further stabilization of the wavelength to encourage a consistency of excellence, quite simply, at this point. Then going into, of course, the golden healer quartz, into emerald, root-weighted quartz, peridot, golden healer quartz, and moss green agate, and so on, until it grounds back into the transmutation scaffolding to serve as a common ground for these two blade bands to have a pivot point to, of course, work to discharge the energy into the earth through resonance and make the magic real. So, of course, that'd be the figure 8 blade band scaffolding. So all these other crystals mentioned after this, of course, will be terminated somehow, some way to the primary wire of copper, brass, and silver spooled together via drill to be the main vein of the construct to generate substantial vibrational compound interest. So, of course, everything I mentioned auxiliary-wise will run through the entire figure 8 sequence for a perpetual containment field of recirculation of this entire emanation output of the organs of this crystalline entity. So at the very apex down here at the bottom of the core, this would be red jasper. Red jasper is the most stable earth elemental red ray root chakra stimulant in the mineral kingdom as a quintessential frequency of base stability, which has been proven to be very effective for assisting high intuitives with the in-the-body experience, quite simply. So, of course, it's a true favorite and tremendously underrated in my humble opinion. Then above that would be sunstone. Sunstone's a very fantastic sunny frequency of solar plexus and sacrum stimulation, that of great cornucopia of joy, blessings, and good vibrations, quite simply. So that's been serving as quite the important yang for the massive green ray heart chakra receptivity intake. So, of course, when you feel good, good vibrations go out, oftentimes through the quantum connection of the quantum void, input of positivity, it comes back. That's the big idea of why that's been quite crucial for, of course, when you feel good, good things happen. Then above that would be Libyan gold tektite, which is a mysterious space magic rock that was utilized in ancient Egypt, which I will once again omit to keep things consolidated. But quite simply, it's a very mysterious starborn crystal of very high potency, of intensive solar plexus and sacrum activation of cardinal fire, yet it has a storm overtone of full gold ray of illumination, and is a quintessential dharmic accelerant manifestation agent to, of course, ensure one's energy field is in their primary intention of their incarnation, is the big idea of a dharmic accelerant application. Then above that would be the very famous or infamous green ray crystal named moldavite, which is quite the sensational powerhouse of magic to be utilized in this apparatus, of high heart storm activation of rapid onset dharmic acceleration as well. That's where it gets a little bit of infamy, be it by, of course, by shaking up the internal world of one's false self matrix being destroyed. It is a quintessential dharmic accelerant alchemical crucible expedition, basically. And so having that aspect of moldavite here, of course, is a very clean attunement to one's true divine path before false self-imprintations occurred to manifest as not the ideal, completely uncompromised divine connection. So that's where Moldavite, of course, is being well utilized with many contingencies of stability, transmutation to mitigate the timeline whiplash by design. Then above that would be chaurite. Chaurite is a very fantastic violet ray crystal that I consider to be the most utilitarian effective in the violet ray spectrums of course, being a traditional crown chakra activation frequency, third eye naturally. But with the inclusions of calcite and black dendric, it also makes its own full clearing capacity of the entire auric field, as well as has a strong stimulation ground point of the earth stars to actually ground this high frequency divine energy into tangibility, which is why it's my favorite utilitarian violet ray crystal for a one-stop dharmic acceleration shop. Then over here, on the back side, this would be a red rock here from Sedona. So the aspect of Sedona is a very high iron matricity. That's why this is oxidized red. That's why I jokingly refer to it as a ruby city, based on its extremely red appearance of high grounding. So the aspect of Sedona is quite famous for being a mystical place, based on the aspect of being a very effective grounding of all ethereal radial energy into tangibility to make the magic real. So a little dose of Sedona goes a very long way in the red rock format right here to, of course, be very encouraging to grounding in this ethereal energy into practical application. Then above that would be Amazonite. Amazonite is a very fantastic 4th and 5th chakra stimulant, that of the water elemental spectrum. That is very, very, very nice for deeply anchoring these activation points of 4th and 5th. It also, of course, was a classic Egyptian utilized magical crystal of antiquity. Then above that will be Larimar, a more recent discovery, but very fantastic nonetheless, of being a very effective 5th and 6th chakra stimulant of extreme oasis of calm generation. I consider that an archetypal energy tied to Lemurian conceptualization of the power of the goddess in a lot of ways, and so the aspect of Larimar brings a very powerful higher truth and a soothing compassionate disposition, which is very, very advantageous as a heat sink and, of course, to maintain equilibrium and a peace that surpasses understanding. So this next section I'll be discussing right here is where the hood will be installed. So this green leather hood has a function that's far more than aesthetic. So the aspect of the green, of course, is a very nice homage to color therapy resonance of green ray heart chakra activation, indicative of the abundance platform, as well as it's a way to, of course, protect all these subtle crystals stacked underneath this section, as well as, most importantly perhaps, it works as an insulation agent to mitigate the stray radial energy leaking, so it's actually more condensed and contained, so the energy runs more efficiently through the primary blade band and the apex band. As well as once it's, of course, properly installed, it does have a nice aesthetic flair, but it is far more engineered than just for looks. And the reason that's there, of course, is to contain or basically insulate these rather intensive cosmic space rocks stacked for this section, save for that purpose. So right here, this would be fulgurite, which is a product of lightning striking sand, which literally carries the energy of lightning in the closed loop apparatus, which is a very powerful manifestation dharmic accelerant as well, and it was utilized as a spirit tool of antiquity by shamans to resonate with the power of light to intensify their prayers of magic made manifest. So that's a very, very nice effect, and of course with the power of lightning, it's a full, very intensive light body activator from top to bottom. Then next to that, for the same kind of energetic stimuli for vibrational compound interest, would be that of black tektite, which is another space-borne mineral of meteorite impacting sand, which carries that cosmic jolt of celestial entering the terrestrial. And luckily, it's a black ray crystal, so its high vibratory induction is a very foundational setting from the Earth stars up to raise vibrations through the entire auric field scaffolding, which makes it very tremendously advantageous as a very powerful foundational fortification of raising vibrations from the ground up, which makes it a very nice application of a space magic rock, quite simply. And this next section is a holy trinity I utilize quite frequently for exactly this purpose of, once again, having significant vibrational compound interest in tandem playing off each other for a very unified full light body healing goal. Starting off with Star Argonite, seen right here, which is a calcium-based full light body activator from top to bottom that works very diligently to dismantle any patterns of dis-ease found stored in the chakra column, making a manifestation of not of one's highest alignment. And so the aspect of that makes for a very good segue into Seraphinite, seen right here. Seraphinite is a green ray crystal named after the seraphim angels. Just like Star Argonite, it is another full light body activator that works very diligently as well to dismantle patterns of dis-ease found stored in the chakra column from top to bottom. Then, of course, the third member of the Trinity would be that of Tibetan black quartz, a crystal from Tibet, perhaps the most unbroken lineage of heavy-duty spiritual source Om resonance attunement in one locale, which carries very nicely in this frequency right here as a true toroidal field stimulant of, once again, just like the two mentioned, a full light body activator from top to bottom, and tremendous expansion of the lower Earth star tap point into the Earth, as well as the higher Soul Star stellar gateway configuration to be a tremendous full Om healing resonance with that divine frequency overture. That's why the three together, of course, have similar stimulations, and they work fantastic as a trinity for comprehensive full light body utilitarian healing from top to bottom. Then next I'll be discussing the wooden core of the apparatus. So the aspect of the wood of a carbon-based range, of course, works as a good segue to transfer this energy into the carbon-based human avatar, at least for now, to be in a very effective way to transfer the silica, the crystal energy, into the practical, tangible realm of compatibility with the human avatar, which of course makes the wooden core quite relevant. And the wooden core itself is that of oak from Sedona, Arizona, from a very lucky oak tree that has its tendrils tapped into the constant 24/7, 365 waterway. So it's a very abundant, healthy tree that never goes without water, which is a very nice feature, as well as oak is a very dense atomical wood, which is very strengthening to the entire physical scaffolding of the carbon-based transference, which makes it a very appropriate choice in many reasons. And not to mention, of course, all the mystical lore associated with oak, but I'm omitting many of these lore capacities to stay on track and stay disciplined on the cataloging as a priority. Then affixed to the oak core would be that of selenite, seen on both sides. So selenite by itself is quite the fantastic 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stimulant back to one's godhead to mitigate and clear debris between higher guidance and one's conscious self, which for the spiritual adept is very advantageous. And with that high frequency connection point, it also works to clear debris of stagnancies not of divine alignment through the entire auric field from top to bottom, making it a true absolute master healer. But where it always shines in any given spirit tool is this critical feature. So in this 18-minute rant of this entire closed-loop crystal configuration, it also plays a crucial role of taking this entire closed-loop emanation algorithm, if you would. It works to purify all of these crystals. It works to amplify or intensify all these crystals. Perhaps most importantly, it also brings equilibrium and harmonization of the entire crystalline pitch, which is why it's so crucial. Not to mention with the higher self-guided activation of clearing stagnancies, that's what, of course, makes it a truly triumphant trifecta every time this is discussed. And right there, affixed to the selenites would be two spectrums of kyanite. So kyanite is the most rapid transfer energies in the mineral kingdom, hence I'll be employing whimsically fast penmanship of the black kyanite of rapid grounding through the entire Earth stars at a very constant ratio, which also works as another contingency or surge protector to ensure the frequency pitch is always grounding into the Earth, so the energy is always perpetually tapped into the Earth plane at a consistent recalibration ratio to ensure the magic is real once again. Then right here will be blue kyanite, which is a very, very effective third eye stimulant of, once again, just like the fluorite, a tremendous mitigation or clearing of the fog of the right and left hemispheres for encouraging whole brain thinking and further transferability. And so with that much rerouting, rebuffering of energy between the black and the blue, it's also very discouraging for stagnant energies to maintain the field with that much rerouting. So essentially, as a joke, it works like another layer of Teflon from top to bottom to keep dispersing, discharging stored habitual stagnant negativities of incoming and external, of course, too. External and internal rerouting. Alright, well that would be the entire catalog of the 51st Abundance, which as a summary, obviously by now it's pretty indicative that it's a very, very dynamic, full utilitarian light bison from top to bottom with a very heavy hard chakra concentration activation of green ray terrestrial imperfection by design, at least that's the intention of these guys, with a high celestial ingestible intake to ground it to make the magic real a bit of a holy grail homage. Well, 1,000 blessings, and may the force be with us all.